Hey there, looking out at the beautiful Ukiah Valley here in Mendocino County, Northern California. So this video is on the subject of the problem with science, which I think is a good topic. Definitely a tricky one to tackle without looking like, an idiot who doesn't know anything. It is easy for spiritual people to criticize science, say that it's all a religion and it's all, just theories and stuff like this. And so a few weeks ago then I made a video in which I said that I believe in science. And I just wanted to clarify that and expand on it. Now this was in the context of pushing back against the various conspiracy theorists who basically believe that science is all just a big scam, that is all a hoax, and that there is a conspiracy going on in which NASA is basically controlling everything and just dispensing information out there to the world that is false, that is misleading, that is just a propaganda machine, and that what we read in the papers or see on the TV as far as scientific conclusions is all just some big hocus pocus illusory game that they're playing, and that it's all wrong. And I think this is just completely absurd. The scientific community is composed of thousands and thousands and thousands of individuals over the course of hundreds and hundreds of years, observing our world and coming to their conclusions and arguing with each other and debating and testing through multiple experiments and control subjects and all this, and it is not just something that is a matter of some small group of elites doling out scientific conclusions. However, in saying that I believe in science, that does not mean that I believe in everything that science is creating. And so that is what I want to touch on in this video, is that science, as I see it, is incredibly adept and accurate in determining the nature of physical reality. That the conclusions that are being reached within the scientific community, especially in the past century or so, are incredibly accurate and right on. They have to be. They have to be in order for people to create the kinds of technologies that are being created, in order to do the kinds of things that people are doing, flying around the world, going to the moon. And yes, I do believe that we landed on the moon, but that's a whole different subject. Creating computers, satellites, television, cars that are relatively very safe, and all this stuff. You have to have your science accurate. You have to have it right, or your car is going to fly apart, you're going to get lost in the ocean, your plane is going to fall out of the sky, and whatnot. Physics is very specific. The natural laws and forces are very specific, and you have to have them figured out if you are going to be able to actually utilize and direct and control them in some way, which we very clearly are in this modern age. However, I also think that science is horribly misguided and on a track that is very dangerous for the planet, as we are seeing with extreme environmental destruction, the deaths of our oceans, disappearing coral reefs, disappearing Amazon rainforest, the continent of garbage swirling in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, nuclear radiation and waste, and all this stuff. Our world is way out of balance. Even the weather, seems to be out of whack as a result of science. None of this would be happening without science. We are able to create modern conveniences, modern technology as a direct result of science. And so science has the potential to be devastating to this planet, to the extent of possibly eradicating life, or a great amount of it, from this earth because of the imbalances within the very core beliefs and approach of science. And so I want to compare here science with spirituality. Now, obviously, there has been a conflict between science and religion for centuries. Science does not believe in a spiritual realm, a heaven, the gods, and all this, although certainly there are some scientists who are spiritual. But science essentially completely dismisses religious notions, and religion has a great distrust of science and its approach and how it is determining the nature of our world and what it is doing in the process. But there is a difference between religion and spirituality. And ultimately, then, science and religion, in fact, have great imbalances that at their root are actually more similar than they realize. Both of these paradigms are to a great extent at odds with nature, the natural world. It's just a typical religious thing that the world is here for our use, at our disposal, at our convenience, and the animals are here just for our use, and this was all just put here by God to support human beings, and do with it as you will, something like this. And then science has this approach of manipulating the physical world in such a way that it basically has the same belief. It is one of dominance over the world rather than symbiosis, a oneness approach of being part of this world. They are both separation mentalities. But let's just compare science with spirituality in general, because religion and spirituality are not the same. Spirituality encompasses religion, but religion is really the politics of spirituality, if you will, the socialization of spirituality. So here's my definition of science versus spirituality. Science is about the objective observation of the physical world. Spirituality, on the other hand, is about the subjective experience of the metaphysical world. And so science is about picking apart physical reality, our world, our universe, the very structure of matter, in order to figure out what it is. The purpose of science is to determine the nature of reality. Spirituality is about the inner experience and connecting with something within that is indefinable, that is non-material, and enhancing one's experience of life and one's understanding of the world around us through the inner experience and how those experiences shape us and shift our perception as we go about our lives and explore this world and try to make sense of things. And so both of these approaches are about trying to figure out what the world is and our relationship to it. But they are completely and utterly different, ways of going about that. And I believe that both have their validity. Both are absolutely essential, because subjective experience, has its place. Obviously, there's no point in living without a subjective experience. There's no point in living your life just based on observing. Life is about experience. Life is about being in it, being, immersed in the world, immersed in your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions and your perceptions and being a part of something. Objective observation is a separation mentality of I'm here and there's something here and I'm observing it and picking it apart and trying to figure out what it is. But both of these have a place. because we are both immersed in it and we are observing it. Here I am, looking at the trees and the snow-covered mountains way off in the distance there. And so there's a world, there's a world out there that I'm in the middle of. And so I think that the ultimate solution is a synthesis of these two different approaches. Absolutely, spirituality can get, highly imbalanced and disconnected from physical reality, the world around us, because of not enough understanding of the world around us, not enough applying some sort of an objective perception, removing yourself to some extent from the world in order to perceive it and understand that tree is me, but that tree is not me simultaneously. Something like that. We're all just kind of lost in the ocean of life here, and yet there are different things within the ocean. So you can say there's the ocean, but then if you jump into the ocean, you will discover it isn't just an ocean. There's lots of different things in there. And so there is simultaneously oneness and differentiation. And so it is important to have that understanding that in some sense that I am a separate self, even as I am a part of everything. Science has become highly imbalanced in my view because of this extreme emphasis on the objective way of deducing the nature of reality, and a extreme lack of respect and value placed on the subjective experience. And so science says you had an out-of-body experience, you had a Kundalini awakening, you were talking with angels, you had a conversation with someone who was previously in your life who died and passed on, and you saw their spirit or heard their voices or whatever, or you have a feeling about something, or you think that you're sensing someone's energy. Well, if you can't reproduce that in a laboratory, then it's worthless. It doesn't make sense. It's you can experience all your little fantasies all you want, but it isn't real. It's just a figment of your imagination, your mind playing tricks on you, your grandiose fantasies about yourself, or your imaginings of the world or something beyond this world. But that isn't real, and that isn't to be taken seriously in the quest for truth unless it can be reproduced in a laboratory and the experiment done by multiple other people to confirm that that actually did happen and that it is actually a real phenomenon. And so science says that objective observation is the only way to figure out what reality really is. Science and technology have gotten way off course, in my opinion, and that there needs to be another way of being, another way of relating with the world, and another way of viewing reality and our relation to it, such that we are more immersed in this world that we live in and less focused on how can we separate ourselves from the natural world and eventually end up living in bubble cities or whatever that are completely separate from nature. This is what the futuristic movies are always like, is that nature has basically been eradicated and we're all eating food pellets and living in a world that has no plants. It's just all cityscape, the Jetsons or whatever. And so even though science is right in its quest to understand physical reality and make sense of things and figure out how to create these amazing inventions and harness the forces of nature, ultimately its approach is a matter of picking apart reality. It is not a holistic approach and perspective. It is that take everything apart down to its even beyond atomic structure At one time, then it was thought that the atom might be the fundamental building block of physical reality, and yet now we've gone way, way beyond that. Particles that are infinitesimal compared to the atom, looking for the God particle, as if finding the God particle will finally reveal to us what truth ultimately is. If we could just pick things apart to that ultimate fundamental essence, such that this is what everything is built upon, then at that point we will understand what reality really is. And that is a fantasy of science, to think that is the way to do it. That is the way to figure things out. Ultimately, the way to truly understand the nature of reality, in my opinion, is through the subjective experience. The objective observation of the world around us is part of the quest. It is a helpful tool. It is a tactic for navigating this physical world, in which you do need to understand things in order to meet your physical needs, in order to feed and clothe your body, in order to have some sort of abundance in this world. But the much more important quest is one of the inner experience and of the subjective perceptions and understanding of the world around us, and making that ultimately the most important way of discovering the meaning of life. Not by creating ever more complex, sophisticated pieces of technology that we are relying on to do the job for us, of telling us who we are, what reality really is, what the true meaning of life is. We must discover that within ourselves, and not base it on the physical world around us that we perceive to be separate from us. Something like that. All right. Take it easy. Hasta luego.